How's it going, everybody? J-Mac here. So, they put out the patch number 2 on the PTR yesterday, and with it comes an insane amount of Witch Doctor buffs. Pretty much buffs across the board, and some kind of different mechanics changes as well for pets. Let's get right into it. Sorry if the voice is a little bit groggy today, guys. I just did a 10-hour stream last night and just woke up, and I want to put this video out, so it may sound a little different than normal. But anyways, so we're just going to go over mainly the pertinent stuff for Witch Doctor. So the beginning, Torment 7 through 10 has new gold find values. Adventure mode, slightly reduced the amount of progress required to spawn a Rift Guardian and Nephilim and Greater Rifts. A little bit of tweaking there. Items. The Spider Queen summoned by the Spirit of Arakir 2-piece set bonus now benefits from plus pet damage of Fix. So that means that things like Mask of Jerem and Enforcer Gem are actually going to buff that spider from the 2-piece. I'm not sure if it's actually considered a pet just yet. I haven't had a chance to test it enough, because that's worded kind of vaguely. It says it benefits from plus pet damage, but it doesn't say that it is a pet. So I'm not sure if things like Tasker and Theos are actually going to benefit it or not just yet. Remains to be seen. The Necrosis damage over time applied by the Helltooth harness set can no longer critically hit, but will now calculate your critical hit chance and critical hit damage into its damage. Similar to what they did with Haunt and Pestilence a few patches ago for Jade Harvester, where it can't crit anymore, but it just calculates your crit chance, crit damage into the damage, and kind of just has a steady damage over time effect. Jerem's Bracers now roll with plus 75 to 100% Wall of Death damage. Now, this has a lot of possibilities. The biggest one being that you can probably just run these bracers in Greater Rift builds, which a lot of the Gargantuan Helltooth builds were running strong arms, but I feel like this may be the way to go now. But also, the Firewall Speed Torment 10 build got a gigantic buff with this change. That thing should be insanely fast for Torment 10 speed farming. Some bug fixes. Fixed an issue that prevented the power from the Lorix Crown from functioning when selected in Kanai's cube. So you can actually cube the Lorix Crown now. Somebody did a 61 on the PTR already with this change. With that cubed and some other items together, it was basically a Mana Juma's Angry Chicken Arakir set they did a 61 with. And I played around with that build a little bit on stream last night, and it's really fun and has a lot of potential. So with some other changes, they buffed Angry Chicken and Mana Juma's a little bit in this patch too, which we'll go over. Potentially has some pretty good options. Honestly, in this patch, I feel like we have probably 7 or 8 different builds as Witch Doctors that could push into the 60s, which is crazy. Fixed an issue that could sometimes prevent Bane of the Stricken from dealing increased damage to Rift Guardians if your attacks hit other targets first. Getting some tweaking done on the Bane of the Stricken before Season 4 hits. Monsters. Further adjustments have been made to the amount of progress monsters grant Nephilim Greater Rifts. Increase the amount of experience required for Paragon levels 2500 and up. Most people I don't think are going to have to deal with that too much. Thorn's damage is now increased by 100% of your primary stat damage bonus, and this is one of the big ones right here. Area damage now can be triggered by pet attacks. This is a change that a lot of us were lobbying for the last patch, in patch 2.2 when they revamped Zunimasa. This is something we either wanted pets to deal area damage or for them to add some kind of cleave effect to fetishes so that a melee Zuni build would have been good. But at least, it's a patch late, but at least it's in there and is a pretty nice buff overall. At the very least, even if you're only getting area damage out of Paragon, it's still, more damage than you would have been doing, more AoE. And there's potential to possibly stack some area damage on your gear now with this change. Let's go and scroll down to the Witch Doctor specific stuff. Active skills, Big Bad Voodoo. No longer gains double the benefit of the 20% attack speed bonus for the pets. The pets no longer gain that. Corpse Spiders. It now benefits from plus pet damage of Fix, just like the 2-piece Spider Queen, the permanent Spider Queen with the rack here. Corpse Spiders in general are getting plus pet damage, so again, they'll be buffed by Mask of Jerem and the Enforcer Legendary Gem. Again, I don't know if Taskers are going to be benefiting them or not just yet. I haven't had a chance to test it, but if so, that could be pretty nuts. And I definitely want to test out some sort of Spider Queen's Grasp, Corpse Spiders setup, which I think could potentially have some serious potential. You run the Enforcer Gem, Simplicity Strength will buff Corpse Spiders, a Mask of Jerem, some other things could be pretty nuts. Hex skill Angry Chicken. You now break destructible objects while transformed. So that's pretty nice. You can just run through doors now with Hex Angry Chicken. And also, being able to just run over a breakable object means that you can run Warzekian Arm Guards and say a Speed Angry Chicken bounty build and get that extra speed buff without having to come out of Angry Chicken form. Wall of Zombies, Wall of Death. So, raise a wall of zombies 28 yards wide. They upped the damage to 1000% weapon damage as physical over 6 seconds, which is up from, I believe, 800%. And then the Communing Experience rune, they nerfed a little bit. This is like one of the only nerfs, really, in this patch. Summon a 15-yard radius spectral ring that deals 1200% weapon damage as cold over 6 seconds. The rest of it's the same. This was 1400% weapon damage, so it's down 200%. And then the skill rune Firewall they buffed as well. It was doing 1000% weapon damage as fire over 4 seconds, and now it's 1100%. So that buff paired with the Jerem's Bracers buff, again, the Firewall, Ingeom, Torment 10 build should just be wrecking Torment 10 now. Huge buff to Spirit Vessel. Heal amount increased from 15% to 50%, and the cooldown was reduced by 30 seconds. You know, just fantastic change overall for literally every spec. Bugs fixes. Fixed an issue that prevented Gargantuan, Big Stinker, and Restless Giant from being affected by Short Man's Finger. And we'll go ahead and scroll down. Fixed an issue causing many pets to regenerate less life per second than intended. And then some more Witch Doctor specific stuff. So, Witch Doctor Carnival. The damage of darts fired by fetishes is now increased by 250%. The number of fetishes that fire darts when you do is now limited to 5. So basically what this means is the 5 fetishes are going to shoot darts. Those 5 fetishes are going to be shooting very powerful darts. The rest of them are going to be attacking in melee range. I've already done a 63 with Carnival with this change, and in general, it's either a wash or a buff as far as damage goes. They also did some other things. The area damage changed for pets, and then they're also making it so that Fetish Sycophants are benefiting from Fetish Army percentage damage on your gear. So that Fetish Army percentage damage that you get on your Zuni string, your shoulders, and your chest are benefiting all 23 fetishes now. Even though only 5 of them are shooting darts, overall, I think the damage is relatively similar. The only real change to Carnival, because you still probably gear it just about the same, I think. The one difference is that with the way Carnival worked before is you'd kind of like go set up in a corner and then generate fetishes in front of you, and they'd be like a wall blocking you from projectiles, archers, you know, spears, things like that. You can't do that quite as much because you only have those 5 fetishes staying by you shooting darts, whereas all the other fetishes run around and attack stuff. So that's really the only change as far as gameplay, I feel like. It still felt really, really smooth. I did a 63 earlier today pretty easily. I'm sure that with my current gear I could do like a 66 if I got the right rift. Deadly Rebirth now rolls with plus 45 to 60% Grasp of the Dead damage. Pretty cool. The Grin Reaper. Mimic skill damage now gains bonuses from your items. I'm still not sure what all this means just yet. I'm assuming this really just means that it gets like, if you have zombie charger percentage damage on your gear, then the mimics will get that benefit. But maybe they're getting even more benefit than that. This is another very vaguely worded change from Blizzard, but we'll see. Maybe somebody else has tested this extensively that could tell me for sure. Remove the cooldown on Mimic's Acid Cloud and Zombie Charger skills, so they should be able to just spam these abilities more. They can now cast Wall of Death, and increase the cast range of Mimic skills. Overall, just Grin Reaper buffs across the board. Awesome, because Grin Reaper is probably the coolest, I would say the coolest Voodoo Mask in my opinion. Helltooth Harness has been redesigned. Let's see, so Necrosis is dealing more damage from the 2-piece bonus, and then Necrosis afflicted enemies take 20% increased damage from all sources, up from 15%. The 6-set bonus. After casting Wall of Death, you gain 900% increased damage to your primary skills, and then all these abilities. So, before this patch, basically how that was worded was, after casting Wall of Death, you gain 300% increased damage, and that stacks up to 3 times. So now, you just have to cast Wall of Death 1 time, and you get your 900% damage, opposed to having to stack it up. So, there's no ramp-up time anymore, and it just lasts 15 seconds. So, overall, quality of life change there. You get your damage right away with that. This Germ's Bracer stuff isn't new, that's from the last patch. Manajuma's Way. Your Hex Angry Chicken explosion damage is increased by 200%, which is up from 100%, and slain enemies trigger an additional explosion. I already talked about the Angry Chicken Arakir 60 plus build. Obviously a huge buff to that, and that's kind of what is allowing that to do so much damage and be viable. And it's also just going to be extremely good for speed farming. You should be able to put together some sort of Torment 10 Rift speed farming build now with Angry Chicken, and it's definitely by far the best for bounty farming in Torment 10. They buffed the 2-set bonus of Spirit Arakir. Summon a permanent Spider Queen who leaves behind webs that deal 800% weapon damage per second over 5 seconds and slows enemies. So this paired with the Mask of Jerem, Enforcer, things like that, buffing the Spider Queen, potentially can make this thing deal a ton of AoE damage. Suwong Diviner. They upped the Acid Cloud damage. It can roll between plus 75 and 100% now. Pretty nice buff. And then the Scrimshaw, they also increased the Zombie Charger damage. It's a roll between 60 and 80% now. So between these two buffs to the weapons and the buffs to Grin Reaper, there should be some really solid Zombie Charger, Acid Cloud, Grin Reaper, Helltooth builds out there that can push 60 plus. They did a little bit of a nerf to Bane of the Stricken, which we all kind of saw coming. It looks like it still stacks infinitely, but they nerfed it a good bit. Each attack you make against an enemy increases the damage it takes from your attacks by 0.8%, and the damage bonus is increased by 0.01% per rank. They buffed the Season 4 exclusive Cat Mojo for the Witch Doctor a bit. You reduce the damage, the first time an enemy deals damage to you, reduce that damage by 60 to 80% and charm the enemy for 3 seconds. I think it was like 40 to 60% before, I believe. Something like that. Few other things here. Adventure mode changes. Heraldric caches now contain 2 guaranteed legendary or set recipes. No longer reward rift keys. We already knew that. The amount of progress granted by progress globes in Nephilim and Greater Rifts has been increased. So it's a little bit more rewarding now to actually kill those nasty champion packs. I would say in really high Greater Rifts, in a lot of builds, you're probably still going to skip them unless you're Carnival with just crazy single target damage, but or maybe like a Garg Helltooth build. But there's a little bit more incentive now to kill those nasty packs. Additional level 70 rare items have been added, and Stone Singer can no longer spawn. Rest in peace, young Stone Singer. I believe they said they're going to bring him back in a later patch at some point once he's redesigned, but yeah, Stone Singer's just out of the game at the moment. So I'm going to be putting out a lot of YouTube content the next few days and the coming week. And there are tons of builds. Like I said, I think there's like 7 or 8 viable 60 plus builds. You've got, for sure, you've got Carnival, you've got Helltooth Zombie Bears, Helltooth Acid Cloud, Helltooth Gargantuans. There's 4 right there, 3 with just 1 set. And then you can definitely push, which you have already seen, up to 61 with some sort of Angry Chicken Manajuma's Arakir set. So there's 5. And then I'm sure there's at least 3 to 5 more possibilities for builds. I would think that some sort of Renho Flayer Toads build could push decently high. Maybe a Cloud of Bats setup with Arakir. Possibly the Corpse Spiders. I'm thinking just stacking a bunch of attack speed and just spamming Corpse Spiders like crazy could be pretty good. Things like that. So anyways, guys, look out for some more videos soon. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.